I request you all to please be seated and would also like to request you to please occupy the front seats. Thank you. Mr. Sampadananda and Mr. Pinaki sir, please, welcome.
Late, I think, partly due to the weather and the traffic, but finally we are here. And thank you so very much, everyone, for finding time and coming to the launch of the new edition of God, Science and Reality. And I have the pleasure of having this dialogue. The way we want to run this is we want to have a dialogue with one of the best in the field, Dr. Sampadananda Mishra. And he's a Rashtrapati awardee and in the field of Sanskrit research and propagating Sanskrit and into our all Sanatan Dharma. So that's so I have the pleasure of sharing that dais with him today. So basically, see this book. I'll just kick it off. We have this book is an attempt, at best, to transform our ideas from a supermarket logic to the supramental divine will, as Rishi Aurobindo would have called. And so when I started thinking on these topics, so there is a very big disconnect. My current, say, when the world around us that we live in is full of demands on our time, on our attention, on everything. And that demands a very different things. While my religion or my dharma tells me to do entirely another set of activities. So something is missing in that whole chart. So in this process, what happened is I have been reading both science, means quantum. This book primarily talks about the post-Newtonian science, classical science, and we have been full of. We have lost the language that was being taught. Okay, or we have lost the entire language, the knowledge of that Sanskrit. Even if people are talking in Sanskrit today, they are not able to go into the deeper meanings of it, right? Even for students, I would say. The reason is we have lost that keyword for how to interpret a particular word into that has been the reason. So the way it started for me is, so I was thinking, when Indian civilization, as we have been taught for the 5,000 years, it's a 5,000 plus 10,000 years civilization, and we have been one of the most advanced people on the earth, and we had been eating sugar from 700 AD, while the West has started eating sugar only 1400 AD. We have been so advanced in metallurgy, astronomy, and in all fields, right? Poetry, everything. Yet we believed in stories or in myths, and not only believed but prayed to those things as our God. Like, say for example, Hanumanji taking a whole mountain and flying all the way from the Himalayas down to Sri Lanka, right? And say people are being born inside a fish or a kung, okay? So there are all these mythical stories and fascinating things which even betrays modern video game logic, right? We believed. So imagine today we are sitting here and we believed every character in a video game was right, and we started praying to each of those video game characters. How ridiculous that would have been for us, right? So after this many years, it's exactly the same way when you look back. My ancestors were worshipping some video game characters, right? But then it struck me that there is some missing link. And the missing link is that we have forgotten the key to our own, key to the language itself. And the key lies in the language, and sir can also elaborate on more on that, is that Sanskrit is a verb-based language. It is based on action. Unlike any modern language, which is a noun-based language. Nouns in Sanskrit are kind of algorithms that come out from the primary sound keys that are there. And so that's why you have one God can have, say, okay, if you're going to God, say I as a person, I have a job, so there I am a employee. I have a son to whom I am a father, I have a parent, and to them I am a son. So I have play all these different roles, right? So my role name is depending on, a person like me can have 4 or 5 roles, right? Or names in that sense. If my name were given in terms of verb. But for a God who has infinite activities, is capable of a lot of different things, so he has 1000 names, 1008 names, or 100 names and all that. So that's because of the plasticity of the language, and because we were following the verbs and we were following the actions and not the actors. The meaning changes, the society, the outlook of the society changes completely when you shift the focus from action to the actor. In noun-based language in English, because the way we construct our sentence in a bipolar opposite of subject, predicate and all that, it happens, we kind of create divisions in that. And we focus our attention on actors and not the action they perform. That's why there is so much of self-propagation, self-importance. People have started giving more and more of those, right? And the language of the Vedas or of our rishis, that the rishis used, has been mostly on the verbs and actions. And that, knowing that root of each sound is the key to understanding and decoding. The book that you have in front of you is a decoding of all those concepts, mostly looked at it from a scientific, modern science. And the reason being, it has to be relevant for today, and to be relevant, it has a scientific approach to it. We cannot just base it on philosophy or other streams of thought in itself. So with that, I take a pause and ask sir on his ideas on this same thing, like on the Sanskrit and the verb-based language, and how it helps and changes our point of view in as we deal in life.
Thank you. Namaskar to all of you. So I have a very different and deeper experience with the language called Sanskritam. In fact, Sanskritam is not the name of the language. It's an epithet. It's a qualifier. In the sense that the way you use adjectives. So Sanskrita means refined. So it refers to the refined nature of this language. It's not that it is refined from some raw state, but it has been refined right from its inception. When you have certain experience with the sounds, here when we talk about language, the 3 S aspects we need to keep in mind: sound, sense and symbol. And here in Sanskritam you will find there is an eternal relationship between sound, sense and symbol. In the conventional languages, they are different. the sound and sense do not have a connection. I give this example everywhere. Suppose you take English as a language. Why this is called hand? It's very difficult to explain. Or why a certain object is named by a certain word. We say chair, table, fan, this, that. Very difficult to explain. But here is a language. Just imagine a language which doesn't have a single word for any object. Doesn't have a single word for any object. You may ask, what is this? Then does Sanskritam have no word for table, chair, fan? Yeah, it has. Not one, it can have many words. It does have many words. But it refers to the properties of the object. It describes the properties of the object, which is entirely property based language. It defines the guna, refers to the gunas, the qualities. So the object can change, can perish. The gunas are shashvata, gunas are eternal, and Sanskritam deals only with the eternal aspect. So it's an eternal language, a shashvat, chirantan, sanatan bhasha, right? I'll give you certain examples. How this language, the way it is designed, if we understand the whole metrics of it, we will understand what reality is, what God is, and what science is trying to reach towards. Can you tell me why this is called body? Very difficult to answer. The B-O-D-Y, body. Very difficult to answer why it is called. In Sanskritam you have so many words. You have Shariram, you have Deha, you have Kaya, you have Kalevara, and many other words. Just take one simple word Deha and then go to the deeper root of it. So there are two types of etymologies available in the tradition. One is a very traditional fanciful etymology. One is a root based etymology. Okay. Now the word Deha comes from a root sound called Dihi. In English if you put it, it will be D-I-H, D. The fundamental experience with Dihi, the primary idea of Dihi is to gather, to collect, to pile up. Okay. Suppose this is a book space, and all those who are here are interested in books, and we started gathering books. Now this primary idea of gathering, it leads to what? What is the immediate physical experience? So when you see there was no book on this table, and suddenly you find hundreds of books are gathered. So from 0 it becomes 100. So you see the growth of it. You go to the dictionary, you will find the second layer of meaning of D will be to grow, to enhance. So you can explain from the most physical to the emotional to the psychological to the spiritual, all realms of meaning of growth will be part of the second layer. That's why every root sound has multiple meanings.
And just to add to that, I think is that in that word Deha, the Ha is a denotion, is standing for the ultimate stage of it. So it's collecting and then becoming as a whole. So that's why this body, which is a collection of organs, a collection of cells, and that's where this interpretation in the book also, taking the root meanings and creating that, giving the understanding looking at it from a scientific lens. So if it is a body, then it's interpreted as a collection of cells, as a collection of your sir was saying, like piles of books. So it's in our body, it's a collection of organs, and and all this coming together in a functional way, right? So that's where this meaning of, because the ha is a limiting factor as well as it is also your ultimate stage. And that's why all the words, if you think about with ha, is also sometimes destructive, like hani, hatya, and all that. And then also some other, I can't remember a few other words which is takes it to the. In most of the words, their ending is with a ha. Then bridha, right, and all that.
So this is again where I stopped is the second layer of meaning, growth. And what is the immediate physical experience when something grows? So it brings the sense of, like, suppose you all are sitting here, both of us, we are sitting here. Now books are gathered, piled up. Now you cannot see us, I can't see you. So it's covering, blocking. Okay. So to cover in all its senses, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, falls into the third layer of meaning. So single root sound based on the different experiences that we have. Because in this book you will find that how a sound, when it is uttered, a single sound, root sound, monosyllabic, or having 2-3 more syllables, when it is uttered, so there is a sensation, there is some certain kind of experience we have with the sound. So that vibration, when it gets connected with our consciousness, giving us different experiences, those experiences becomes the meanings of the root sounds. That's why each root sound has several layers of meaning. Dhatava anekarthakaha. So many meanings you will find. Now you take all the 3 layers of meanings to gather, compile, pile up, collect, assemble. Second layer of meaning, to grow, to enhance, to develop. Okay. Or the third layer of meaning, to hide, to cover, to plaster. So all these meanings will come in the third. And then how all the 3 layers of meaning describe the gunas of the property of the body. So the first, as I said, like the body is not a single mold piece. Maybe that is a kind of body which Sri Aurobindo talks about. A supramental body will be without bones, without digestive system, or without anything. It's a single mold, very plastic. You can squeeze it and then leave it like that. Maybe that's something, a future body. But at present, the body is not a single mold piece. It is a collection of many things. So we have blood, marrows, flesh, sinews, the elements, organs. It's an assembled piece. Okay, that's the first layer of meaning. Then growth. The body, the property of it is like, I am not of the same size as I was born. Its body's, deha's dharma, guna, to grow. I eat more, then I become fat. I also reduce. But when I am growing, it is deha. But when I am reducing, aging body will not be called deha. Aging body will be called sharira, because shru is deteriorating. It's very consciously our rishis have designed the language and have used it perfectly. While dealing with aging body, they will not use the word deha. While dealing with the growing body, they will not use the word sharira. Okay. So now the third layer of meaning, to cover. The body is like a case, like a kosha, okay, which conceals the soul within. The Atman uses the body as a case, okay, as a covering. So take all the 3 layers of meaning, and then you understand like why body is called the deha. And when I contemplate on the different root sounds, different layers of meaning, and understand a particular word, it creates a different kind of awareness in me about myself and all that lies outside. Now another interesting thing is, like if you add a prefix sam to deha, the word becomes sandeha, which means doubt. Why? It is not becoming a perfect body. Why? It takes the third layer of meaning perfect covering. So it refers to, Sandeha refers to what is the source of doubt. The source of doubt is a clouded consciousness where reality is not seen. There is no clarity. So when that clouding, that covering is cleared, you have a clarity in consciousness, you have a clear consciousness, the reality, the truth is right before you. So the DOUBT, doubt, cannot explain you what happens when you are in a doubtful state. The source of doubt is a clouded consciousness. So
And-
this is how the language is designed, and it helps us understanding the reality.
And so what happens, as sir say, that covering and the layers in which we are built, right? So take that word, because words help us to think. Whenever we think in language. Anyone who does not have a language cannot think. So that word, now they go deeper and deeper into that covering and shell, and names it as kosha. And that there are say 5 sheets of existence, like Annamay Kosh, Pranamay Kosh, Vijnanamay Kosh, and Anandamay Kosh. Right? So all these each are layers and covering. So what is one Deha is itself a covering of multiple layers. So that has been discussed in this book very thoroughly. Like why in each kosha, what is applicable? Because that's another thing, not all can be aggregated or is applicable at all koshas. Right? What my Annamay kosha, Anna can be, I don't know sir, you can correct me if I'm wrong, normally it is called material, but it is the energy. Anna that is what basically Anna gives, the carbohydrates and all, right? So it's a energy layer also that covers us, and then the gross energy, and then we become more. So the universe, there are 2 things that my observation I would say. One is we move in all our things, we move from a gross to a subtle state. So there is the universal movement of from gross to a subtle. And in this, our universe is say 13.8 billion years, out of which 4.5 billion years is the age of this earth. Within this period, there is matter has already started, or the earth or nature, whatever you want to call, it has already started transforming part of material or matter into consciousness. And it is progressively, say, these all the animals and all the living beings and coming to us, the amount of consciousness, it is getting increased. So as sir was mentioning earlier, and Rishi Aurobindo's idea of the divine being, right? The divine man, the divine state that we can attain, is basically when we are all conscious, totally conscious of this. Now we are only partially conscious. Nature is actually forcing us, because nature wants to be self-determinate. I want to decide for myself. So I will get certain capabilities. So I am as a child, I am dependent on my parents. So I get more intelligent. I start earning. Right? I take more decisions on my life myself. Same analogy, put it in terms of nature and earth and all. You see that self-determination, the craving for self-determination in nature is huge, and that's the movement that is happening continuously over this long period of time. So we can move into doubts before we move
anything
into
that
the
you would like to ask or have your own.
Unknown means atom.
Yeah, can make a big difference. Now in Anna, Anu, it is the cerebral na. Okay, that will have a different meaning. Now, when we talk about the root sounds, again, each root sound is a product of the combination of seed sounds. The seed sounds are at the source of the language. What you find in the Varnamala means in English you call it alphabet. So in Varnamala, starting from A to H, all the sounds are known as the Bija Aksharas, the seed sounds. And each Bija Akshara has again ranges of meanings. So the total existence, the reality can be explained through these sounds or to her. This is where the Vedas, the Vedic rishis, the Tantric sages, they have worked hard to understand the reality through this primordial. If you go to, like in Sanskrit, there are around 32 Ekakshara koshas. Ekakshara kosha means like they deal with the monosyllabic sounds. For example, like what does ka mean? Ka, ki, ku, kr, ke, kai, kam, ka. So what do all these sounds mean? So there are 32 different Ekakshara koshas dealing only with the monosyllabic sounds and ranges of meanings. A has ranges of experiences. A has ranges of experiences. E has ranges of experiences. So there is something called Matrika Vijnanam in the Tantra, or Tantra Abhidhana is there. So now what Sri Aurobindo does, Sri Aurobindo also has a very different theory of language, philological theory. Because Sri Aurobindo's entire interpretation of the Veda, Upanishad, Gita, it is based on three things: philology or deeper philology, and a deeper psychology, and again his own realizations. Okay. These three are combined in his interpretation of the words. So Sri Aurobindo has studied all these, the different meanings which are assigned to by the traditional koshas or traditional sages. And when he interprets, he goes deep. Suppose he has to explain the word Agni. So he goes in detail. What does A mean? What does Ga mean? What does Na mean? What does E mean? Their experiences. And then the combined force, how it comes to mean as Agni, as the flame or the fire or that element. To that minute level, Sri Aurobindo goes, and his philological theory completely different from the other philological theories. And in fact, when Subramanya Bharati, he asked him that, like we all have studied the Veda, the traditional commentaries, but they were sitting and listening to Sri Aurobindo also, his Vedic interpretations. So he asked, like, where from you are getting these different new meanings? Because it's all new. And so many traditional Vedic Vidwans, they became disciples of Sri Aurobindo, A.B. Purani, Kapali Shastri, even Anirvan.
Yeah, Anirvan.
So he's a sage. The amount of work that he has done on the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads, Veda, Upanishads. So unimaginable work. Veda Mimamsa is a profound work on the Veda, and inspired by Sri Aurobindo. So he answered, Sri Aurobindo said, Sri Krishna has shown me a new science of language, based on which a new interpretation of the words in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, all these things will be done. So now we see, when we are talking about like Di, we explain, but we can even break it down to what does the mean, what does E mean, what does Ha mean, and then see the combined force of it. To take you for one example, the sound the is a sound of division, split. How do you arrive at it? Like you take any word beginning with the, you will find this sense of splitting, dividing, separating. You say dwara. Okay. You say dvi. Okay. Then even the word deva, Deva doesn't belong to division, but Deva is a very Div means to shine. Div means to shine. I'll give you two different interpretations of Deva. Div means to shine, but it is a light which penetrates and then separates the darkness, removes the darkness. Okay. Then Div also means to play, and when you want to play, there has to be two. The Leela cannot happen without two. Okay. Then and this is an unending Leela which
Avatar,
happens.
and all this.
So Dasa, Dasana, the tooth is called Dasana because it bites, it separates. So any word having the sound the in the beginning, you will find the sense of splitting. It's a force which splits, separates, divides. So even the word division, divided, duality, okay, duet, duo. So all these things come from the seed sound the. So similarly, all the vowel sounds if you take, and in Sri Aurobindo's parlance,
means even this same sense is carried in English also. So divide, right? So it's not divide. So in Sanskrit, it's a ga or means gamon or movement, right? Same thing when we say go. Go is go means to move from one place to other. Go, and also importantly, the go word is previously used as a for cow, for arrow, for cow, and then a few other meanings and names which also means go. Now what happens is, like today we use instead of detergent powder we say, I'm just making it simplified, instead of detergent powder we say surf or something, right? It's the most prevalent use which kind of stuck to us today. So when we say go or cow, or we mean a cow, that's because the most common thing got stuck to our head. We kind of left the root meaning, which could have meant 10 different things. So moving from one place to another is also go. In English it's there. And it is transcultural, it has moved, that same sound. Because there is certain fundamental quality in sound. There is certain fundamental quality in sound, because sound at the end of it is a vibration. That vibration, when it hits me, there is a hormonal, emotional response to that. Based on that emotional response, there is a hormonal response to that. And then there is this whole neurochemical reaction in the body that happens based on what sound is hitting me. If I'm in a very loud pop music, I will get a different kind of a mindset rather than while hearing bhajan. It's just the ways how sounds generate those kind of hormones and emotions in us. So that's where, and there is a universality to it. And the moment we can decipher this whole the Sanskritam thing part of it, we can pretty much solve the problem of the sociology of language, basically, because how it moved, how our cultural things happened in the past also is being captured in our language as we use this. So that is very important aspect to it. To add one, I'll just give you an example just to corroborate what Dr. Mishra was saying. So if you look at the Vishnu Sahasranama of Vishnu, right? And it says, Vedaha Sarvogo Jita Krishno Dardaha Sankarshana Achyutam. So this basically, the word spells out 7 names. English reads as He or Lord Vishnu, the ordainer of the cosmic order, Vedaha. And how does He do that? He does that with the help of His own faculty, Savanga. He can never be conquered or excelled or surpassed, Ajita, because of His power to attract, Krishna, which is strong and firm, Dardha, and by which he draws and drags towards himself Shamkarshana, thereby keeping things in their course and not letting them drift or fall at all times, or achyuta. Okay, so this is in word by word we can find a trace or a pattern to which, so in this book, as I mentioned, therefore you can see the conceptual proximity of the Indian god Vishnu with gravity. Perhaps both Newton and scientists like him and our ancient Vedic rishis understood the secret to recognize the concept of gravity. So the concept of gravity, or something that is keeping things in their orbit, which is not letting the earth and moon to move away from it, which is strong, which has an attract. What modern science is doing today, what modern science has done is converted the concept of gravity or something that is keeping us in our place, achyutam, is already there. What science has done today is they have used mathematics as a tool to express this. So there is signs, symbols, which is again a logo, sound form, or like all the aksharas that we have, these are also logo. These are also symbols, like any pi or any other 1 to 10 or any numbers. These are, as they are symbols. Those sound forms or the aksharas or our alphabets are also symbols. So our rishis use the sound symbol. What scientists are using, they are using the mathematical symbol of that. That's the difference, because conceptually we had already arrived at that level of maturity in our civilization long back. Otherwise, we couldn't have achieved so much in astronomy, in astrophysics, and all. So that's one of the bigger points that this book is trying to make. Like, yeah,
small observation.
sure.
I think whatever I have understood till now is a discourse between linguistics and philology.
Yeah.
If I perceive the universe in terms of...
So the sound is the primordial sound. That's what you will see in the Gita. Krishna says aksharanam akarosmi. Akara sarva varnyagrya. This is how it is described both in the Vedas, in the Vedanta. Even the Tantra says, when it says that Akara Maheshwara, it also assigns one more epithet to the sound A. It says that Akara is Anuttara. Anuttara means there is nothing beyond it. So if you put A anywhere, so you will not find anything beyond that. It is always beyond the beyond. Anuttara. So A is the primordial sound, the vibration, from which everything emerges. This is the Adi. Okay. When you take the sound, now what happens? Look at the whole articulatory process of all the sounds in the Samskrita Varnamala. So the entire sound, all the sounds that the humanity or human being can produce, they are within the range of A and U. A begins with this position number 1, where the root of the tongue makes a contact with the soft palate when it comes to the consonantal sounds. But with the vowel sounds, there is no contact, but there is a free flow of sound, but there is a squeeze, so then the sound can be produced. Okay, but it's a free flowing sound. But this is the position number 1. Okay, where from you say a, ka, ha, and the last position of sounds is u, the 5th position. So when you say a and the last sound is u, between A and U, the entire universe is there. All the sounds are there. Beyond that, there is nothing. That is why this combination of A and U, see, no two vowels can remain separate. When you put them together, they become one single sound. So A and U together becomes O. And then the sound that ma sound, ma has the nature of finality. So it closes everything, it measures everything, it measures the immeasurable. That is why the word Maya. So Maya means it's a measuring mechanism which is used by the Brahman to make itself finite. That's why a mother is called Mata. Why mother is called Mata? Because she gives a finite shape to the infinite. She measures the immeasurable, brings to a measured state. That's why she is Mata. Mata has the power like the Supreme to create. So making the infinite finite, making the immeasurable measurable is the nature of Mata, Maya, Ma. So it brings the closure. So that's where you have again the combined Ekakshara Brahman called Om, which is again worshipped as the primordial mantra. But A is the beginning.
Can I then conclude
Huh?
that sound wraps that entire reality?
Absolutely. Yes.
See, the
Is
universe.
sound the ultimate reality?
Yes, absolutely. That's what the Veda believes. That's what the Tantra believes. That's what the
Again, it's
Vedanta
a
believes.
human interpretation.
Is it sorry?
It's a human interpretation.
See, when we call it a human interpretation, an ordinary consciousness and an enlightened consciousness, there is a difference. The enlightened, expanded consciousness which the Rishi possesses, so he has crossed all limitations. He is not bound by the limitations of the mind. He doesn't allow its mind to interpret. He allows the mantra to manifest within his consciousness. That is why the mantra becomes apaurushaya. Purusha is the ordinary consciousness limited by many limitations. So therefore no one writes a mantra. The mantra manifests. The Rishi allows itself or has the inner vision to see the mantra manifesting or hears the voice of the truth. So the human limited mind is not interfering in this interpretation. So because this is the truth they have seen the A as the mantra. When we say it is a primordial mantra, it is not the interpretation. Because when we say interpretation, there the mind is involved in interpreting. That is why the Rishi says, Yadrugeva dadrushe tadrug uchyate. Whatever I see, I describe that. When Sri Aurobindo was writing Life Divine, so he said the words are coming straight from the higher plane of the consciousness directly to the tip of the pen. It is not passing through him. That was his experience. So in that way, it transcends all human limitations.
Yeah, and to add to that, if you if you notice very carefully, any creation is a movement from silence to sound. Any creation and any dissolution is the reversal of that, from sound to silence. As a birth process, a child comes, there is a sound. At death, that sound goes away. Similarly, for the universe also, the movement is from silence to sound and back to silence. That's the cycle that I have.
Yes. Nishabdam tat parabrahma. That's how it is described. That the world of sound comes from the world of silence. And ultimately, it has to merge in the silence.
And that's the samadhi. The word samadhi means the solution, the samadhan. So what is the samadhan? The merging into that silence of that eternal and thereby being part of that one wholeness.
Yeah, but dha has the sense of holding.
Yeah.
Sama is that unity. So you find yourself held in that state of unity of consciousness. That's the state of samadhi.
I don't want to sound nihilist. I don't want to sound negative. But I am confused. I pick off the pen. The medium of this is the finite body, which is a cloud of atoms. Once they disintegrate, all this divinity falls apart. As long as the body is there, God is understandable. Once the body disintegrates, what is the ultimate?
Manifests through different instruments. A higher principle in the body itself. Without that higher principle entering into the matter will not be awakened.
Is it sound?
At every step there is a sound. Because when you call vibration, the moment you think you create a vibration.
There is no vibration without matter.
There is no. There is no matter without vibration. This is why it is called Adispanda. See, when there was nothing, Tama Asit Tamasa Gulham. When everything was blinded by the darkness, there was nothing. But there was this throb, the Adispanda, the primordial vibration. So a throb takes place and the whole thing begins. So it shapes the matter. The vibration is shaping the matter.
I think they're complementary.
It can be. But this is the experience, like from the Adi Spanda, everything comes. Now, that matter remains as matter for millions of years. Matter, the Anna and the Prana continue. So you have all the plantation, vegetation, animals and everything with the pranic body, no mind. So then there is the higher principle Manas, which enters into Prana. Okay. And then brings this element of thing. So the man appears on the earth. So mind also cannot understand itself unless and until it is connected with a principle higher than itself. So this is where Sri Aurobindo talks about the supermind, the supramental, and the Vedantic realization is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is, like in parlance, Sri Aurobindo's parlance, it is the supermind. And beyond that is the Satchidananda. So now what happens at each step? Now there is one more thing which Sri Aurobindo has explained, taking clues again from the Vedantic tradition. There is something which has to be the evolving element within us, which doesn't die. The body can disintegrate, like the body, the matter, the Anna, because it is of the Pancha Mahabhuta, it will just get mingled with the Pancha Mahabhuta. Prana will enter into the pranic existence, the vital world, occult world. Manas will enter into, when this disintegration happens, Manas will enter into the mental psychological world. So there are worlds beyond, there are worlds and worlds and worlds, layers of worlds. Then there is this element which is called the psychic, which is the evolving soul. So it is different from the Jivatman. So there is a Jivatman, there is Antaratman, there is Paramatman. So this Antaratman, which is our evolving soul, which has everything in its memory. Kratosmara, Kratamsmara, Kratosmara, Kratamsmara in the Upanishad. So this psychic being, it travels, taking different bodies, lives after lives. It has the memory of everything. So when body disintegrates, nothing, it's not that it has perished. And every amount of sound, thoughts, vibrations that we have created, it's all permanent. Nothing vanishes. It never gets deleted. What it becomes is adarshanam. It just becomes invisible to us. But every vibration, because it's present, it can never be deleted. Take example for the simple things like you feel that you have deleted your message from WhatsApp or from somewhere, never gets deleted. So there is always a retrieval software which can retrieve it. The same way, the good thoughts are there, the bad thoughts are there. That's why the Rishi says, Ano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwata. Always have noble thoughts, good thoughts. Bhadram Karane Visrunayamadeva. So let's see all that is good. Let's hear all that is good. So that's why the good vibrations will remain and then impact others. The moment.
I'm grateful for the explanation. The only unfortunate thing is I am Sanskrit illiterate.
Most of us, we are. Yes.
I'm Sanskrit.
No, that's why I'm explaining every sentence that I'm saying in English.
So
Yes.
I think for people who have too much into modern education, and maybe we can approach the prize winner, proved that world is not real.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So clearly we are heading towards that it cannot go further without the explanation of what we already knew.
Yeah.
So maybe Pinaki could explain it
Yeah.
or the more better, like quantum entanglement. So how can two points which are billions and billions of light years away, how can they instantly connect? Nobody can explain, right? This is the question of physics. The only explanation which comes is that everything is same. Everything is same, is a form of the same thing, which our rishis have been saying for so long.
You very of consciousness. It starts with Ananda. Okay, so if you look at the ultimate term that is used is Sat Chit Ananda. Okay, let's start from that ultimate. When you look at that term from a horizontally, just visually I am saying Sat Chit Ananda, it doesn't, it's Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda is bliss. That's how it is, English interpretations go. But when you look at it in a vertical way, so Ananda is a realm where there is no Nanda, or Nanda means vibration. So anything which is vibrating in a beautiful way, Nandanic, it happens. So in Nanda, Shiv's Bahan is, that's why Nandi, the most thing. So Nanda is your that vibrational state, which is in two ways. Either it's a non-vibrating state of Ananda where there is no vibration, or it is the substratum for the vibration. That is the Ananda state. From that emerges the conscious state, which has not been have a material manifestation. And then in the Sat stage, there is a material manifestation of that. And once it is in the Sat stage, then it goes further into the Panchabhuta and all that. So, if you look at one thing, say the petroleum, okay, say petrol. The way it starts, it is our universe, like it's a billions of years ago. Some plants have died, right? Or some animal fossils are there. It has transformed. It has transformed into something which is totally different from a tree to a petrol. You cannot imagine, right? It starts like that, and when that crude oil comes out, first as a bubble, it also creates the natural gas, which is the more subtler element of that same plant, the plant that had died millions of years ago. Now that petroleum, it is being refined and used in your car. That same petroleum is used as a steering as a plastic, in plastic, right? That same petroleum is used as in wax, right? Wax. And from that, if you go to a Madame Tussauds museum and see Shah Rukh Khan in wax, can you ever imagine that same Shah Rukh Khan statue is coming out of a plant which died billions of years ago, right? So that's the way your transformation happens over a long period of time, and we move away. We've kind of have lost track of these transformations, and now when we see more subtler, so the movement from a more subtle gross to a subtle, or a subtle to a gross, is basically is how this universe is working towards, right? It's at its own predetermined path. Did I answer that question? No, I was asking more. Yeah.
Definitely.
In Life Divine, when Rishi Aurobindo is talking about existence of different bodies, Annamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, So all of us as a physical being, we are carrying inside and the seeking, right? And we, after we leave the physical seat, then we go through those stages. I'm trying to understand what you
Go through which?
and
See,
the psychic
simple
being we're
thing is
talking
like
about.
So our pranic existence becomes one with the universal prana. Okay, there is a pranic world. Then the mental psychological world, the world of manas, so the mind goes and then becomes one with that. What does not actually die and then continues is the antaratman, which Sri Aurobindo gives the name as psychic being. Okay, psychic, actually that psychic is there in the form of an entity like a divine spark. When through the proper education, training, refinement, that psychic entity is the responsibility of each individual to seek and to work out for the growth of that entity into a flame. Okay, that divine spark ultimately becomes flame. So there one attains to purnata, perfection in one's own journey. Okay, so with that psychic flame, then there is a psychic emergence which happens. It comes to the front to lead. Till then it is the mind which is leading the prana and sharira. Whatever your mind says, you follow that, body follows that. Okay, so it controls our pranic and the physical movements. So because manas has its own limitation, so it misleads, it misguides. That's why it said mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. It is the manas which is the karana, which is the cause of bandha, limitation, bondage, and moksha, liberation. But mana can liberate you when it gets connected with that divine spark, with that psychic being. So that psychic emergence has to take place through the refinement of all the sadhanas and constantly connecting all the sadhanas with the antaratma. Okay. That remains, that has all the memories which gets carried forward.
Right. And we are supposed to refine or grow in the spiritual world to the extent that at one point of time is that psychic being is supposed to merge into what is Paramatma, the universe.
When the purnata happens, then it becomes free from, it becomes free from, in the sense that it has its own will when to take birth, how, where, whether or not. Yeah. Till then we go through this mechanical cycle of birth and death, janma mrityu chakra.
Divine intervention, and then he becomes an instrument, and the words and everything flows through him, and a book comes out.
So writing, it almost becomes an inspiration coming from a different world and then manifesting through us. Yes, and there is a beautiful book also Bloomsbury has brought out, for which I was the reviewer. There is a Western author who has written, the yogic is a sadhana of yoga. Yeah, it happens. That's why
It can happen in any field, I believe.
it may not happen all the time, but it happens in many fields.
Any creative
But there
field.
is no process to connecting with the.
There is the purity of the instrumentations, the intensity of seeking that you carry, the sincerity that you have, the devotion you have. So there has to be preparation. Without it can be.
Means I'm not say for any creative genius, say of the caliber of Tagore or Aurobindo and all. So it's a many life. It's a many life continuity that comes. It's not in one life. I don't think it can.
Progress has its own phases.
Incrementally.
With what
towards that.
intensity you are seeking, it depends on that. So as Swami Vivekananda and many others who have said, like, you can reduce it to like what would take 10 years, you can reduce it to 10 months or 10 hours. Depends upon your intensity and purity and sincerity in seeking and knowing.
As love those who are seeking,
Yes.
Yeah.
doubt those who are found it.
Yeah. Actually, if you see, you brought a good question. There's only two religions in the world. One of the believers and one of the non-believers. The non-believers are seeking the Gyan mark, and the believers are all the Bhakti mark. If you see all the Abrahamic religion, they have a Bhakti mark, including our Bhakti movement and all those things. They believe. Their belief gives them that power through love, and the other is through knowledge, the filtration that takes them closer to that perfection that you are calling. And Rishi Aurobindo also mentions it is the light of Savitri, so that you'll find it in the book as well. Mentioned that's the path of perfection. Because if there is any one dharma, it's to move towards or seek that perfection in life, whether in any field of work. If you are, someone said, I forgot, if you're brooming the floor, it should be as perfect as no one has ever broomed before. So similarly. Okay.
What you just said touched a chord in me.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, I've also been in the process of making sense of this. And you said there are only two religions in the world. One is of believers and of non-believers.
Yeah.
So is this, if you extend that, can it also mean that the believer's way of the relationship with divinity is more the experience of it, while the non-believers is of knowing?
Yeah.
And is there a zero-sum game there?
Yes.
Because I somehow happen to be in this camp where I'm trying to know, but I have this fear that in my utmost pursuit of constantly seeking knowing, am I going to miss out on experiencing the divine?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
you are very right on that.
Sri Aurobindo says that you have to go beyond the belief and non-belief. You have to live. It is not to be believed, but it has to be lived.
Experience.
That's where the experience.
Here I will come to the physical
Yes,
world.
please.
Hydrogen in the periodic table is at the extreme left of the table, and transuranium series about 165 elements or whatever, there are number of neutrons, electrons, protons. Is hydrogen complete in comparison to the last element in the periodic table, which has many number of electrons, neutrons and protons? Or else both are complete? And why did physical world evolve from single hydrogen to the extreme transuranium element, and yet both are elements?
Yeah, the Rishi says Purnamidam Purnamada. This is also Purna, that is also Purna. Purnat Purna Mudacya. What is the
need of creating that?
Yeah. So that's again Lilartham. That's the answer. Beyond that there is no answer. It's just the Lila. Unending play of the divine enjoying itself through its own games.
Yeah, I can make an attempt. It's a very good question. And
I forget I was old man. My conclusion is finite trying to understand infinite.
Yeah, true.
That's the impossibility.
yes. So there is a chapter which says that
That's the impossibility.
No, that's
looking
not
through the finite
impossibility.
lens.
It is not impossibility. If it is an impossibility, then this whole tradition becomes nullified. It is possible. It is through the finite we seek the infinite.
We seek, we will find it.
No, we'll find it. The people have found it. People have found it. If we say we will not find it, then this.
Okay. So
A kind of experience.
so coming
To
to
reject what you don't know is
That's what we don't know, we call magic.
so just to come back to your question of hydrogen and uranium. So both are not for ultimate stage. It's the combination. Because hydrogens are made up of quarks, they are made up of strings. So in terms, it is the different vibrational energy that creates both these at the same time. Otherwise, one would, so if man have emerged from, say, a monkey, then why not all monkeys became man? So in that, all hydrogen atom should have become a uranium or the other way around. But both coexist because it is the combination of, because both are not finality. The final elements are those strings as per today's knowledge. It can be something else 50 years down the line. So it's a combination that creates that two elements at the same time. So no one is ultimate. That would be my simple response.
For me, the truth is, we have billion explanations.
Yeah.
We have billion explanations, and yet each explanation is as elusive as the first explanation.
Absolutely. It is progressively.
That's infinite. So there is no possibility. I'll repeat it.
But my request is if you can expand a little bit on that same thread, the knowing and the experiencing, and you said that Sri Aurobindo said we live. Can you
As I say,
expand
it has to be a lived experience. See, knowing has its own limitation again. However great, refined the mind may be, the instrumentation of knowledge may be, still it is limited. So one has to go beyond that and then experience it, and even experience also comes and goes. Ultimately, it has to be a settled realization. It has to be a settled realization, and that is what the rishis did by the power of tapasya. That they could attain to these higher and higher worlds, and that's how they could describe it to us. Such profound truth that you find in the Vedas and Upanishads, the way it is described, still, after so many thousands of years also, people are trying to understand even a single word, single phrase, single concept in the Vedas, though there are hundreds and thousands of interpretations of it in many ways. A simple mantra like Purnamadah Purnamidam. It says that Swami Dayananda Saraswati has written 31 pages of commentary on this. It's fabulous commentary. Read it. You will understand the whole science of it. What is Purna and what is Shunya. And here, if you look at another interesting thing, that as per the realization, we do not have whatever we call Shunya is Purna, and what is Purna is Shunya. We didn't make a difference between Shunya and Purna. That's why we have only one symbol for Purna and Shunya. There are no two separate symbols. So in the Shunya is Purna, in the Purna is Shunya. So we need to experience that and be at that point of Purnata. And it's difficult to say whether it is Purnata or Shunyata. Buddha would call it is Nirvana Shunya, or the Rishi will call Sarvam Purnam.
Okay. Yeah, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.